Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here on Saturday. I'm Claire, if you didn't guess.
And I'm Wolf Allen.
And today we are talking about our whole child intervention framework.
Okay, so our educational background, we're both pre-service teachers. We'll be student teaching this fall. Claire is in elementary education and I'm in secondary education.
So what is this all about? So the idea behind the whole child framework is we are trying to respond to the negative effects of the pandemic on our students' social and emotional intelligence.
So for our setting, we're using a K-5 setting with approximately 2,300 students in the school. We have a budget of $25,000. It's for a lower income, undeserved community, so our focus is specifically on measures that can be coordinated by the school itself.
So we kind of based our framework off of both RTI and PBIS since they've been shown to be very effective for students, but it is completely SEL focused. So for our Tier 1, obviously as educators we know what Tier 1 is, but it would be whole group instruction. For our design, students would have a once monthly special rotation where they would go in, talk about topics like conflict management, anger management, conflict resolution with peers, be able to talk with a specific educator who is dedicated to leading students through their SEL skills. For Tier 2, we would have a weekly SEL intervention for any students who anyone in their education team felt like really could benefit from extra SEL intervention. We did mention in our paper, I don't know if anyone got the chance to read it, that if for some reason these students are having so much trouble in other areas of their academics that they don't have the time to be pulled for an SEL intervention, that the school should coordinate some way for them to either go to therapy outside of school or before or after school with one of the caseworkers. And then finally for Tier 3, for students who have a lot of trouble, who are having a lot of behavioral problems, they would get weekly one-on-ones with a school social worker. As that progresses, if the students are doing better, that can change to once every 2 weeks, once a month, or just as needed. But we really wanted to make sure that there was plenty of support put in place, especially for the students who really needed it.
So these are our structural support recommendations, and these recommendations aim to alleviate some of the stress off of teachers, so their focus is on instruction and students still get the mental health support that they need through the school.
So, number one, we recommend hiring social workers. Our recommendation is at least 5 social workers in the school, and part of this will come into play later when we talk about the cool down room. But that way there is 1 social worker who works every Monday in the cool down room, 1 to work every Tuesday, and so on and so forth. So that way there's not any burden put on the social workers more than necessary. We also recommend at least 1 per 500 students, just to ensure that students are getting the time that they need. We also recommend that if schools are trying to find a way to hire more social workers, that they pair up with DCS or the State Department of Education, because currently in the social work program there is an incentive to work with DCS so that they can have their student loans forgiven. So if they were to partner up with this could possibly count towards the student loan forgiveness.
So, as Claude mentioned, one of our recommendations is to renovate the cool-down room. So this would provide a space for students to not only manage emotions, but to get immediate support from a social worker that is in this room. The budget for this room is about $10,000, so that would be renovating the room itself, it would be providing any sensory items for students, and any other renovations or plans that the school would want to put in place in the cool-down room.
And it can be totally customized to the needs of the school. We also recommend an SEL-based club. You may have seen this in RTI framework, but we just thought it was such a great idea. So it would allow students to build community while working on their social emotional intelligence, and on top of that, it kind of takes the stigma away for students who maybe need more support in that area. We did budget $5,000, which seems like a lot, but if you're considering that students may be doing aftercare, maybe need to be fed, we have to meet their basic needs before we can begin working on SEL skills with them. It can also fund service projects in the community to teach them to be more caring and to have better interpersonal skills, and field trips for them to practice the social skills they're learning.
an SEL curriculum, so we believe schools need to provide this that way that everyone involved in providing good mental health care to the students have the support that they need to do that. So this would include both general education and special education.
We also recommend PBIS professional development specifically for all of the staff in this building, regardless of their role. So that way they can all be included in providing this support to students rather than just the educators. Obviously, it has been proven time and time again that PBIS has a positive effect on student behaviors. It is kind of necessary for understanding the framework that we've developed, so that's part of why we really want to make sure the educators understand it.
And bringing in access coordinators, we found in our research that bringing in these coordinators really help parents to navigate the realm of psychological services. And so what our aim is for the school to do is to provide times where families can meet with one of these coordinators, so they know how to better navigate applying for healthcare, government programs, and other mental health care options.
Some of our anticipated results are this will address inequity. So I don't know if you saw the part of the paper where we talked about how overall minority communities don't typically have as much access to SEL curriculum as better funded school districts do. So this would make sure that every single student across the board gets the support that they need.
And additionally, our aim is to support mental health with this. This is included in some of our tier frameworks, as well as just having that access coordinator on site, so we are able to support mental health on site and off site.
And obviously, this is meant to grow their social skills, which I don't think I need to tell you are very necessary for the rest of their lives.
Yes, and then also better emotional self-management for these students, including the cool down room, and also just the tier 3 frameworks with which Claire mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Here are our references, and that concludes our presentation.
Questions from the panel?
I just would like to know, did you get in touch with DCS to find out if this is feasible, that you really could do it?
We didn't have the time to reach out to DCS. This was the last edition in our project. But I did talk to social work students, and that's how we were able to discern what we know about this. I know Wolf did some of the
Yes,
research.
so I also looked into exactly what DCS would be providing for these social workers, the specifics on the program for loan forgiveness. I believe it's 5 years for.
Yes.
It's 5 years for that.
Thank you.
In regard to the SEL curriculum,
Mhm.
can you speak a little bit more about what exactly the role of the classroom teacher is in identifying need and responding to that need?
So the role of the teacher specifically, in the paper we did mention that the teacher should provide resources for students to identify their emotions, so that way they can better, that way it's more consistent across the school, so that way all of the teachers, all of the staff are using the same language. But part of the idea here is that we understand that classroom teachers, especially in the elementary setting, tend to be the therapists, the parents of their students. So they would still be performing their typical roles, but that way if a student needs to go to the cool down room, instead of the teacher having to try to keep an eye on them while also teaching, they can continue instruction and know that their student is going to get that support, so they can focus on instruction.
Time for one more question. There's another question.
I'll just say thanks for participating in this challenge. Appreciate that greatly. And then just a clarifying question. At the beginning, it referenced special education pretty specifically. This is for both general and special education, right? The
Yes,
recommendations, okay.
yes. I don't know if we hit the point clear enough, but the curriculum either needs to be differentiated, like the curriculum being provided by the school,
Yeah.
or they need to seek out a specific special education SEL curriculum and have a designated one for general education.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much.